channel. It is Saturday and I just hit a lifetime deadlift PR of 340 pounds, and I want to talk about all the things deadlift related from the time of my last meet through current that led to this PR. Coming out of the meet in April, I knew I wanted to run several months of pulling conventional and possibly even take that into my next meet, which is going to be in September. And this isn't the first time I've pulled conventional. Way back originally, if you watch my bench video, I talked about how I used to just go YOLO with my husband. I would always pull sumo then. That's just what came the most naturally to me. I'll insert a clip here of me maxing out 225 way back then. When I switched out of group fitness and went full in on powerlifting, at the time my max was around 250. I ran that was 2018 into 2019 with the push-pull meet where I hit 315 for the first time. That was my third attempt at that meet. They let me go for a fourth just because it was a PR and I got 320. That was at the beginning of June. At the end of June, that same month, I randomly decided to see what conventional felt like and pulled 315 my first time. I do not have a video of that. I did. I have no idea where it is and I wish I could find it. So in the same month, I hit my goal of 315, both sumo and conventional, after failing it numerous times. So I decided to run conventional for a couple blocks there, and I actually ended up hitting 335 just a few months later for the first time conventional. I ran that I think into October and I hit a plateau. I couldn't hit anything over 315. So I switched back to sumo. Enter 2020. Not much training took place that year. 2021, put our garage gym in. Obviously just defaulted back to sumo, and that's where I have been ever since. I hit 335 last summer, which was a sumo PR, but obviously tied my best conventional. And then in the meets in September 2021, I hit 325 and then 330 this past April. So I had high hopes that conventional could help me boost my sumo and possibly even be stronger just going off historical. So the week after the meet, it was like Wednesday or Thursday that week, I decided to come out here and just YOLO some singles and see what I could work up to, which ended up being 300. So I was pretty excited with that. The rest of that week I had kind of just taken as a deload. So my first real week back to training, I set it up as having a day of singles and a day of triples. I have always had 2 deadlift days, but that's been with sumo. So I was curious to see how it would feel conventional and knew I'd probably have to make some adjustments along the way, which I did. So the first week I worked up to 285 for a single and then was doing paused back down sets. And then for my triple day, I worked up to 255 for 3. And that volume, even just triples, was killing my lower back. It didn't feel pain, I was just sore for days. So I came around the second week, worked up to 285 again, and I really started to look at my setup and I felt like some things needed to change. I was used to grip and rip with sumo. That's how I had always done this. That's kind of what I rolled with conventional. And I decided to see how it felt if I took some time to kind of wedge into place at the bottom, and I implemented that on my triple day and ended up working up to 270 for 3. And those felt fantastic. So rolled around to the next week, I worked up 295 for a single and then 275 for 3 for my triple day, and I was super excited about that. Now the following week, I had tried a power chart. I need to get that. So the following week, I decided to switch things up a little bit. Instead of my single, do this power chart that my husband has had for years. We just kind of throw them in for fun. But it's rep schemes of 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. And the number associated with it, if by rights, if you complete the chart, you should be able to 1RM that number. So I picked the 320 chart, which was 210 for 8, 235 for 6, 255 for 4, 275 for 3, 290 for 2, 300 for 1, and 255 for 4. So other than the 290 for 2, I had completed everything else on this list and thought if I could put it all together, that would would make me hopeful that I could pull 320. Well, that was just way too much volume too fast, and I maxed out at the 255 for 4. That's kind of when I decided I probably should deload. I spoke about in my bench video that I am now programming for myself. So this first go round, I really didn't know when to expect that I would need a deload and was just kind of playing it by ear. So this was the week I knew that I needed a break. So took a deload, came back the following week for a single of 305. I felt super dialed in. I was really happy with how my technique was coming along. I also, for this next block, changed from doing my paused work after my main lift, took out the triples and put the paused and made them beltless on my secondary day. And that's how I always had my sumos set up, which was a main day for the comp lift and then pause beltless for my secondary day. So I started 225 for 2 sets of 5 just to kind of get used to it, and that went well. Came back the next week, worked up to a single of 310. I didn't feel as good about my form this week. I do feel like I kind of ramped it. For the pause day, I did 235 for 5, and this week and for the next few going forward, my pauses were kind of embarrassing. They're basically non-existent. You can see in my face, I just knew I shouldn't be happy with what I did. So the following week, coming off that 310, I decided to kind of drop the RPE a little bit and just worked up to 285, hoping to come back the following week with something bigger and maybe hit 315, 320 for my single. My 245 pauses, again, absolutely awful. So the following week I worked up to 290 and then ended up failing 300 twice. In true Renee fashion, couldn't pick it off the floor, so naturally I just go try it again and failed it again. I had attempted a power chart with squats right before this. For the entire time of this, I had been squatting and deadlifting on the same day, so that wasn't anything new. But I failed the single of that power chart with squats and then went into the deadlift. So that probably played into it, but it definitely messed with my mind. On the secondary pause beltless day, I did hit 255 for 5, which was a PR for sumo or conventional beltless. Again, pauses, very, very questionable, but I left that pretty happy. I decided, that was at the end of another block, to switch up my rep ranges. I did this with all 3 lifts, move the reps around. So my main day, I made a triple day, and then the pauses, I dropped just a rep off and made them sets of 4. So my first week of this rep scheme, I worked up to 275 for 3. And then on the paused day, 245 for 4. I also implemented back down sets on the pause day rather than the main day, and doing 4 sets of 2 just for additional volume work. And for those 4 sets of 2, the weight is whatever you worked up to for your 4. So for this day, it was 245. Following week, I worked up to 290 for 3, which was a conventional rep PR, and I felt on top of the world this day. My pauses, I worked up to 250 for 4, and finally, they were good pauses. I can actually feel like I can count those ones. Following week was the final week of the block. Throughout all this time, it seemed that 3-week waves were what worked the best for me, and then following by a deload. So this final week, I worked up to 295 for 3. I went into the session planning on 300 for 3, which would have tied my best sumo rep PR, but as I worked up, I knew it wasn't there, so I just decided to take the baby PR at 295. So I did my deload, and that brings us basically to current, which was last weekend. I worked up to 285 for 3 and was really hoping for that 300. It wasn't there, and I ended up just doing 300 for 3 singles just to get the volume in. That would have been 300 for 3. During this week, I did officially sign up for my next meet, which is September 10th. I could tell my conventional wasn't getting where I wanted it to be to actually pull conventional in the meet. So I had planned to finish out the next few weeks of the block conventional and then switch to sumo for the rest of the training leading in. I came out here for my pause day, did my 135 paused conventional. Before I decided to change the weights, I said, let's just see how this feels sumo. And I felt amazing. Yes, it was only 135, but just comparing how 135 conventional felt to 135 sumo, it was like I was lifting absolutely nothing. Obviously 135 is very light for me, but I was like, yeah, let's run with this and see what happens. And I worked up to 270 for 4 paused, decent paused beltless, which actually tied my best paused sumo beltless. And on that day, it had been like an RPE 9 day. This, I felt like I could have kept going, but I knew I still had the back downs to do. And obviously being my first day back, I decided to just call it here and do everything with 270. So finish out the week. Came to today, and normally I would squat and deadlift today, but I really wanted to get a good gauge as to where my sumo was so that I knew how to plan for the next 7-ish weeks going into the meet. So I came out here just to run singles. I did have a goal in mind of at least 315. That was my opener. I would like to open at least that again, if not more. So I really just wanted to hit a clean 315 and then see how things went from there. So I did 225, 250, 265, 280, and 295. Once I did the 295, I kind of had in the back of my head that maybe I could PR today. 305. 315. 325. And that would have taken me to 335. I didn't want to end at 335 and end on a PR or possibly miss a tie PR. So I used my favorite 5.5 pound plates and loaded up 336, flew off the ground. And as I got closer to lockout, my middle finger, which my nails are completely bit down right now, they are not long at all, just got stuck and felt like it was starting to rip backwards. You can see my right hand kind of rolls forward and I lost my grip at the top. So I paced around. That would have been a 1 pound PR. I'm all about the little PRs. And I decided it moved fast enough. I think I have more in me. So I went for 340, which is a 5 pound all-time PR, conventional or sumo. And it was a little shaky and ugly at the top. Would not have counted at a meet, but I got it. And to hit this completely unpeaked, I squatted and benched 2 days ago, just set me on top of the world. And I feel like I'm in a really good place to possibly hit a new PR going into the meet. I do feel the time that I spent conventional, I changed some things with my form in the conventional that I feel like I've carried over into my sumo that makes me feel a little bit slower off the floor than I used to be, but the move overall feels more consistent. And I'm really excited to see how I can progress this the next few weeks. And I'll have videos along the way to keep you guys updated on how my training is going and basically all things leading into the meet. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stick around for more content from a garage gym, powerlifting mom, showing you that you don't have to be the strongest to be strong. Thanks. Bye.